The equation that wouldn't balance. They called it a choice between Jorge Martín and Marc Márquez. It wasn't. It was an equation that refused to balance. I remember the meetings, too many of them. Tables full of people who love numbers because numbers can't look back at you. They spoke of form, youth, trajectory, marketing appeal. And then there was me, staring at the timing data from Jerez 2024, eyes burning from too much light and too many laps. Marquez on a GP23, a satellite bike. A machine 2 iterations old, yet every lap line of his telemetry screamed adaptation rate, exponential. He was bending the bike to his style, not surrendering to it. Martín, meanwhile, was perfect. Perfect in a way that frightened me. Perfect means static. Perfect means the ceiling has been reached. Before Mugello 2024, I saw what the numbers couldn't show. Marquez wasn't chasing form, he was hunting purpose. And that, for an engineer, is the rarest component in racing, motivation quantified through chaos. So yes, there were 2 reasons, but they weren't about talent. They were about velocity of rebirth and clarity under ruin. The man behind the data. I'm supposed to be a scientist. I build logic, I build speed. But speed isn't logical, it's emotional math. And in the winter of 2024, I saw 2 different emotional engines. Martín was a scalpel. Marquez was a blade that had been shattered and reforged 6 times. One cuts cleaner, the other, deeper. Martín had everything. A title campaign, comfort with Ducati's DNA, youthful aggression tuned to precision. But when he spoke in debriefs, I heard repetition. When Marc spoke, I heard intent. He didn't want to adapt to the Ducati. He wanted to translate it into a weapon only he could hold. I watched his onboard from Le Mans. The way he saved that slide, elbow digging in, throttle feathered past logic. It wasn't reflex. It was a war veteran negotiating with physics. He didn't trust the bike. He controlled the distrust. And Ducati, for all its victories, still has ghosts in its geometry. So I told Tardozzi and the board, if we pick Martín, we stay great. If we pick Marquez, we risk everything and maybe find out how far greatness can stretch before it breaks. They hated that line. But risk is the only language Ducati ever truly spoke. When Marc walked into the factory box, it felt like history inhaled. Not a debut, a detonation. The red suit fit him like destiny that had been waiting its turn. Everything that came after was violence disguised as precision. The first time he rolled out on the GP25, the telemetry screens glowed with something I hadn't seen in years. Unpredictable perfection. No caution, no calibration laps, just an instant sync between man and machine, like the bike finally met the mind it was built for. He didn't just win, he erased the very structure of winning. Every record Pecco had set over 2 years, laps led, sprint ratios, total race conversions, gone. Dismantled without fanfare. Not through risk, not through wildness, through Marc logic. He was fast without ever looking desperate, smooth in a way that mocked everyone else's tension. Every rider tried to mimic his entry angles. None of them survived the second sector. The difference was microscopic but terminal. He didn't ride the GP25, he interpreted it. I saw Bagnaya's data overlay against his. Pecco was perfect on lines, clean on throttle, textbook on traction. Marquez was chaos balanced on instinct. Yet the stopwatch didn't lie. Marc's chaos was a 10th quicker every lap. Precision loses to intuition when the intuition belongs to a predator. The paddock called it luck. I called it inevitability. Every corner he hit was an algorithm I didn't write but wish I could have. He didn't chase apexes. He attacked them like prey. Every win wasn't relief, it was revelation that I'd built something capable of housing madness safely. Pecco had built a fortress in red. Marc turned it into an empire. You could see the morale shift in the garage. Mechanics who once whispered about Pecco's smoothness now whispered about Marc's gravity. The aura was radioactive. When he walked past other riders, they stiffened like prey sensing motion in the tall grass. He didn't win races, he disassembled them. Pole, sprint, main. Again, again, again. 11 Grands Prix, 14 sprints. You don't plan domination like that, you survive it. I'd built engines before that screamed louder. I'd never built one that sounded like it was singing in sync with its rider's heartbeat. Every vibration matched him. Every throttle twitch translated to clean terror. He didn't over-rev the bike once in the first half of the season. He never panicked. He looked like a man remembering his own legend in real time. The analysts kept asking me, "Did you expect this?" No one expects a god to remember his language. Pecco tried to respond. He rode cleaner than ever, braver than ever. But against Marc's rhythm, everything looked like choreography instead of combat. Even Ducati's internal data feeds, those quiet, brutal numbers we never publish, started showing the separation. Marc wasn't just faster. He was accelerating differently, braking later with less heat fade, cornering with impossible lean consistency. Physics bent politely around him. By mid-season, I stopped asking if we'd made the right choice. I started asking what we'd unleashed. Because once Marc understood the GP25, the sport stopped being fair. He could go an entire race without showing a single mistake on camera, but you'd see the others unravel behind him, brake markers off, entry lines wider, desperation visible. He was rewriting the mental economy of MotoGP, lap by lap. I heard Bagnaia mutter once in the debrief, "He doesn't even fight, he just leaves." Exactly. Marc doesn't duel, he evacuates the battlefield, leaving you to fight ghosts in his slipstream. Every milestone Pecco built, Ducati's golden age, the image of mechanical dominance, the PR perfection, collapsed under the quiet hum of Marc's pace. No war cries, no arrogance, just that cold smirk and eyes that already know the future. I sat behind the screens, watching him lap seconds ahead and thought, this is what evolution looks like when it wears red. We didn't sign a rider. We summoned an apex predator who'd been forced to starve too long. He didn't need luck. He didn't need chaos. He just needed a bike that wouldn't betray him. And I gave it to him. Not smoke, not fire, just inevitability. The moment when every record Ducati had ever celebrated turned into dust under the same logo. And I couldn't stop smiling. Because I didn't just sign Marc Márquez. I unleashed the proof that talent is measurable, but willpower isn't. The shoulder and the shadow. Marco Bezzecchi's Aprilia clipped him at turn 7. The bike tumbled. Marc didn't move right away. The telemetry cut like a heart monitor flatline. Right shoulder fracture, ligament damage. The doctor said conservative recovery. I nodded but knew better. He missed Australia, missed Malaysia. Portimao loomed after. The engineers stayed busy, pretending we were adjusting aero load. In truth, we were filling time, because without him, the data felt irrelevant. He went under the knife in Madrid. I visited after hours, just me and him, no PR men. He smiled through morphine. "Worth it," he said. "You built a monster and it bit me back." I told him, "You bit first." People think engineers don't feel. They're wrong. We feel through material failure, through torque readings that break limits, through the sound of an engine that was meant to scream but instead coughs. When Marquez crashed, I didn't see a failure of riding. I saw confirmation that the limits we designed were now human, not mechanical. That's why Martin never fit. He's a near-perfect human for a near-perfect bike. But the GP25 isn't perfect. It's violent, moody, alive. It needs a rider who can speak in chaos. What Gigi saw that others didn't. Looking back, it was never about lap time. It was about entropy tolerance. Marquez thrives in entropy. Martin calculates it. The GP25 was the most unstable masterpiece I've ever built. A bike that could destroy you if you weren't psychologically aligned with its purpose. That's why I said yes to Marc. He's not the fastest man alive. He's the most adaptable. When everything breaks, he finds rhythm in debris. He proved it. 11 Grand Prix. 14 sprint wins. A championship sealed in Japan with 5 rounds left. I watched from the pit wall as the red flags waved. My hand shook, but not from excitement, from the quiet relief of vindication. Because I'd gambled not just Ducati's season, but my reputation on a man most called broken. He wasn't broken, he was reprogrammed. And Martin? He was brilliant, brave, and betrayed by timing. His ceiling was glass, Marquez's ceiling was sky. In Ducati, we don't build bikes for comfort. We build them for men who can hold monsters by the throat. Marquez does that without flinching. Sometimes I lie awake and replay that meeting before Mugello 2024. The room full of men in suits, the slide decks, the projections. They ask me, Open quote, Gigi, if this fails, will you take responsibility? Close quote. I said, if it fails, you won't need to ask who is responsible. The name will be written on every broken fairing. It didn't fail. Thailand was the birth, Austin was the scar, Jerez was the proof, Mandalika was the price. That's racing. That's Ducati. That's Marc Márquez. And those are my two reasons.